That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, every year we know that it is incredibly important to not only have your rookie process down, but to put yourself in a position where you are set up to succeed in your Dynasty rookie draft. The last thing you want to do is be drafting right outside the tier where you're looking at 5 players that are all pretty much the same. No, you want to make trades before your Dynasty rookie draft to get into the last pick in that tier, to have the cheapest price possible for the best prospect and say, hell, I mean, y'all choose who you want. You choose if you want Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, or Drake London. Just give me who's left over. So what I'm going to do in this video is we are going to go through and break this down by tiers, identify the rookie picks in both one quarterback as well as super flex leagues that we are going to be trying to trade for before your rookie drafts. But before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, and also a massive announcement for everybody who has already pre-ordered our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. That guide will be available on the 2nd, not the 5th. I'm going to get that out as soon as possible. Maybe, just maybe, we can have it out tomorrow. But of course, if you want to pre-order your Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, well over 100 pages of analysis and historical research based on rookie prospect evaluation, you can do so on flockfantasy.com. And if you use the code NFL Draft, you'll also get a discount on checkout. So of course, thank you so much for everybody supporting the channel. But let's dive into it and let's go straight into the easiest tier to see. I mean, the second that you pull up your draft room, the second that you pull up the ADP list, you're going to see that there are 5 players that stand out from the rest. You have, in whatever order you choose, Breece Hall, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, and Kenneth Walker. Now, I will tell you, if you wait until the 105 is on the clock and you go, oh my God, yeah, Garrett Wilson is still there, I really want to trade up and get Garrett Wilson, you are going to have a very hard time doing so. And I've been on the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm at the 102. I'm at the 102. I have no idea where I'm going to go. Clearly, Breece Hall went at the 101 because I'm drafting in Flock Dynasty leagues. And I'm saying, okay, well, all these wide receivers are similar to me. I prefer Drake London and Garrett Wilson as prospects, but Treylon Burks has the best landing spot out of this group. So should I just try to trade back to the 105 and let other people figure it out? Well, if you wait until the draft is already happening, I'm telling you right now, you are not going to really have a shot to actually have that fair price when you look to move back. So if you are right now sitting at the 107, the 108, I encourage you to go today to make an offer for the 105. And what I really want to look at when we're breaking down these tiers, not only the rookies themselves, but the odds that you have a player falling a little bit further. Because of course, you can be sitting there at the 106 and you can say, okay, well, yeah, I really like these guys. I want one of them, but are we sure that Kenny Pickett? Are we sure that Chris Olave? Are we sure that Jameson Williams doesn't slip into the top 5 picks in my Dynasty rookie draft where all of a sudden I didn't have to trade up and I'm still getting the player that I want at my original pick? Well, what I've done is we've gone through and tracked a decent amount of data. So this morning, I went and hosted 3 rookie mock drafts on this channel with listeners of the Dynasty Fantasy Football Flock, and we looked at the first 5 picks in those 3 drafts. But more importantly, we also have a ton of real money Dynasty Fantasy Football drafts we were able to pull up. We were able to go over to our locals Patreon Dynasty leagues, and we have, I believe, 11 total leagues where we're able to see the top 5 picks and how often one of these top 5 prospects ended sliding up to that 6th pick overall. So if we just break this down, in the Flock 16, you had a crazy pick. You had Skye Moore going at the 103. This is a real money Dynasty rookie draft. Skye Moore obviously going to the Kansas City Chiefs. That ended up pushing Garrett Wilson out of the top 5. And if you're sitting at 6 and you're getting Garrett Wilson falling in your lap, of course, you are just thanking God. I mean, you are probably one of the luckiest people on the planet, but this has continuously happened. I mean, we actually saw in the Flock 19, someone reach on Chris Olave inside the top 5, and that allowed Kenneth Walker to fall outside of that range. In the Flock 15, you had Kenny Pickett slide up and Treylon Burks Treylon Burks, I'm assuming that Treylon Burks is going to be the 101, the 102 in a lot of rookie drafts this offseason. He should never be the 101. I'll tell you that right now. That should always be Breece Hall. But you had Treylon Burks falling back to the 106. And the flock 8, you had Kenny Pickett and Jameson Williams, both being drafted ahead of Garrett Wilson. So you have a decent chance to actually have one of these players fall back. Now, what I wanted to do is some actual math to see the odds of this happening. And there were 11 leagues total that we tracked. And 7 of those leagues had the top 5 prospects going off the board in whatever order you could imagine. But you did not get one of those top 5 players falling to 6. You did not get one of those top 5 players falling to 7. So 63.36% of the time, you had that top 5 going off the board. And if you were picking at 6, which I was. Now, in the flock dynasty leagues, I really like setting it up where we have those dynasty rookie drafts the day after round 1. So we start those drafts pretty much the second that the second round of the actual NFL draft starts. Now you have 8 hours on the clock, so you get to make sure you know where Breece Hall lands. You get to make sure you know where Kenneth Walker lands. But what's nice is you don't have time to sit here and watch YouTube videos. You don't have time to go out there and do the research, look at someone else's rankings. So there is some randomness here. I will admit that there are a couple different things skewing this data set in particular. Everybody that was participating in these drafts, they were a part of the flock. So we kind of, I don't want to say all think the same, but we all at least have similar approaches to how we build dynasty teams. And on top of this, this was right after the NFL draft. So this is why I like looking at this data, because you don't have a consensus quite yet. Now, of course, that consensus will form shortly. And that's why I'm trying to get this video out as fast as possible. So I could see the odds, dependent on the league that you're being in, either skew higher or lower, dependent on your exact league, than 63% chance that all 5 of these players go in the top 5 picks. Now, going over to our next tier break, this is where it gets a little more difficult. Top 5, it's easy to see. It's clear cut. I mean, honestly, I probably didn't need to spend that much time talking about it. But our second tier drop off, I think we're going to have some people arguing with me. And this is why I like going to those mock drafts to see the exact odds that you have. Because the players that I have in the second tier, not ranked, we'll get our rankings out on this channel. We already have those rankings out on Locals. You can get our entire set of Dynasty Rookie rankings with that Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. Go use promo code NFL Draft to get that discount on flockfantasy.com. But with this tier, we have Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, Kenny Pickett, Superflex leagues. Of course, if you're playing in a 1 quarterback format, that's going to change. But in the next spot, Christian Watson, Skye Moore, and Johann Dodson. Now, I will say Christian Watson, Skye Moore, yes, they are not as good of prospects as what you have with Chris Olave, as what you have with Jameson Williams. But there's a massive but on that. In that with Christian Watson and Skye Moore, they land in beautiful landing spots, and you are going to see them fly up Dynasty Rookie draft boards. Don't be surprised. I mean, I've already seen it happen a decent amount of times. I've already seen it in real money Dynasty Rookie drafts. I've already seen this happen in mock drafts as well, that you end up with Skye Moore. You end up with Christian Watson over both Jameson Williams and Chris Olave, which is why I'm expanding this tier, because I don't necessarily think that we should be making this list as my exact rankings, my exact tiers. I think I'm going to be trying to balance my values with what I perceive the overall Dynasty Fantasy Football community's value lining up. So that's why we're going to have this going down to the 111. And we don't have all those real money Dynasty Rookie mock drafts for the flock through pick 11 just yet. Like I said, there's an 8-hour timer in our drafts, but we do have those 3 mock drafts that we can look at. And in those 3 mock drafts, in the first mock, you did have all 11 of these players going off the board. In the second mock, you had all 11 as well. In the third, you actually had Johann Dodson sliding back a decent amount. You actually had both Malik Willis and George Pickens going ahead of Johann Dodson, and he ended up falling to the 201. So if that's going to be the case, you are very excited. And like I said, we have to acknowledge some bias here when we're looking at this data, in that everybody a part of this draft was a part of the flock. Okay. So if you're looking at that context, and I have been way too high. I've been unbelievably high on this year's wide receiver draft class. I mean, I think this is a very, very bad class overall, but the wide receivers are fantastic. I still think you can keep your rookie picks. I still think you can go out there and draft those rookies if you're taking receiver. We've been saying this for a very long time, but not everybody's going to view this class in that light. I do think if you are playing in a casual Dynasty fantasy football league, if you are playing in a league with people that maybe aren't on top of things, you could see some players sneak into this tier, potentially expanding it. So that's why I don't want to put a hard cap telling you go trade for the 111 in a Superflex league, go trade for the 110 in a one quarterback league, because I think there is some wiggle room here. I think it's going to be a little bit more of an art rather than a science, and you knowing how your previous rookie drafts have gone, you looking at the teams at the end of the first round, saying, okay, do they need a receiver? Do they need a running back? Are they going to reach on a quarterback like Matt Corral or Malik Willis? And that leads us right into our next tier. This is going to be a much shorter tier. If you think that your league is very sharp and you think that your league is going to go out there and aggressively target those wide receivers, I encourage you, if you need a receiver, to go get pick 111. But if you don't necessarily think your league falls into that category, if you think that your league is going to possibly jump up James Cook based on the landing spot, possibly keep Malik Willis in the first round despite him falling to the third round of the actual NFL draft, then I think you can go out and in a super flex format, I think you can trade for the 202. And then in a one quarterback league, I think you can trade for the 112. Now, kind of sucks in a one quarterback format because obviously when you're trading for a first round pick, usually they come at a slight premium. Like the gap in trade value between the 112 and the 201 usually is larger than the gap in trade value between the 110 and the 111 for no reason other than people see that it's a first round pick versus a second. They don't view it as, okay, this is pick 12, this is pick 13, even though that's how they should. It just sucks that you probably will have to pay that premium to go out there and get the 112. But I'm viewing it as saying, okay, well, we've already seen in a couple of these mock drafts, George Pickens slide ahead of Johann Dodson, allowing you to be able to pick up Dodson at the beginning of the second round. And also, trust me, I posted, I believe, a TikTok a couple days ago saying why you can't draft James Cook, that James Cook is a running back that has a BMI of 27.8. We've already talked about this. I'll continue to hammer it in. James Cook, running back 27.8 for his BMI. The only running backs that have been drafted in Dynasty rookie drafts with a BMI that small since 2014. Kenyon Drake, Tyler Ervin. The only running back that was a top 24 producer last year under 200 pounds, Austin Eckler. Like the odds that James Cook hits when he is such an outlier at that size, I think are slim to none, but a lot of people aren't going to listen to that. Trust me, I have people calling me a clown. I have people telling me that I'm the dumbest person on the planet for ever bringing up BMI, for ever bringing up a running back's weight. They're telling me, oh, go watch the film, go watch it. You know, there are going to be some people in your league that have that thought process. You know, there are going to be some people in the league that refuse to look at statistics and at least acknowledge that they have some predictive power, and you should at least take them into account of prospect evaluation. So you could end up seeing James Cook go round one. You could end up seeing Malik Willis in your Superflex leagues as well go round one, despite the fact that he's never guaranteed to start at the NFL level. And if that's going to happen, I think you have a shot, not of Christian Watson or Skye Moore, of making it to you at the beginning of the second round, but I think you do have a good chance that maybe Johann Dodson falls there. Now, we need to talk about worst case scenario, because I can't tell you to go out there and trade for a pick, hoping that your league mates mess up, hoping that your league mates do allow value to fall for you. But worst case scenario, you go out there and you trade for the 202. And you have George Pickens, you have Johann Dodson, you have Skye Moore, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. You have 9 wide receivers go off the board within the first 12, 13 picks, which I'll tell you this, your league mates probably aren't going to do that. Your league mates probably are going to push up a running back too. But worst case scenario, I don't think trading an early second round pick to get James Cook, to get Malik Willis is that bad. Now, like I said, we just talked down on them. I just talked about why they shouldn't be up in the same tier as guys like Skye Moore, Christian Watson, and Johann Dodson. But at the end of the day, you can at least see the path to upside with these players. for this price point in particular. I think that in Dynasty rookie drafts, they'll be first round picks. I think that they are going to be overdrafted. But if they were to fall to the beginning of the second round, you can tell yourself, okay, well, if Malik Willis were to start, we know with his rushing upside, he could be a quarterback one in fantasy. And we could tell ourselves with James Cook, hell, maybe he can't command 15 touches a game, but he's going to be playing in Buffalo, one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL. If he goes out there and starts the season off hot, and he scores 4 touchdowns through the first 4 weeks, we're going to be able to potentially flip him for a 2023 first round pick. You can tell yourself that story. So if you are unable, like I said, plan A is go trade for the 111. But if you are unable to get that 111, I think you have more wiggle room with the potential of one of those wide receivers falling to you with the beginning of the second that I would be willing to trade all the way up to the 202. And of course, we're talking about different price points. You can trade for a later pick. We can go down a tier. You're just going to have to lower your trade price. You're going to have to lower your offering price for these picks. Now, if we move it down, I think our next tier break is going to be at the 210. So very far down, 210 in Superflex and the 207 in a one quarterback league. Now, I will say my rankings, once we get to this range, they're going to look a lot different than the majority of people in your league. And I'm not saying I'm right, not saying they're right, but what we can acknowledge is the fact that usually 9 times out of 10, when you are in your Dynasty rookie draft, everybody can at least agree who the top 10 players are, who the top 6 players are. You have almost a consensus that these guys belong in round 1. And when you get to round 2, the delta in terms of the difference in opinions on certain guys, like a Jalen Tolbert, like Wan'Dale Robinson, they are going to widen to a point where there's a much wider range of outcomes where Rachaad White's going to be drafted in your Dynasty rookie draft. You know that Breece Hall is going to be drafted at the 101, the 102. You know that's happening. Rachaad White, you could see him go at the 110. You could see him go at the 301. Like, we don't know. So I'm going to give a rough estimate on how I'm breaking this down. So I'm viewing this tier as Wan'Dale Robinson. I would personally rank him highest. He pops in our wide receiver model. Yes, I know he's very small. Very, very, very small, just like James Cook. But Wan'Dale Robinson, Rachaad White, David Bell, John Mechie, Matt Corral, Trey McBride, Jalen Tolbert, Alec Pierce, and Desmond Ridder. Now, the majority of people are going to tell me I am way too low on Matt Corral. The majority of people are going to tell me I am way too low on Desmond Ridder for having them in this tier. But in my opinion, that's a good thing. In my opinion, that's a good thing because I'm not excited about drafting Matt Corral. I don't think Matt Corral is going to be the starter in Carolina this upcoming season. I would be surprised if that actually happens. So if you can assume that I'm lower on a player in this tier and that they could potentially go up at the 201, the 202, that just gives you the security that you're going to have some of the wide receiver options available to you in this range. You should be more excited about trading for these picks if you don't agree with the players that I have here. And I think that you probably end up getting Desmond Ridder. You probably end up getting Matt Corral sliding up to the late first, the beginning of the second, which gives you that security as we've discussed. And if that's the case, you could potentially go out of your way and you could trade for the 209 and get a David Bell. You could trade for the 209 and get a Rachaad White, the 209 and get a Wan'Dale Robinson. And you're not having to pay that premium because you're allowing your league mates ahead of you. You're saying, hell, pay a little bit more. You pay for the expensive picks. You get your choice. I'm trying to group prospects together and I'm trying to take whoever's left over. And I think a lot of these guys have similar profiles. I mean, if you're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, David Bell, John Mechie, I think there are wide receivers that all are similar in value. And if we're looking at a running back like Rachaad White compared to them, I think we can say the same thing. Other players in this tier, as we've already mentioned, Desmond Ridder, Matt Corral, I think they're going at the top. So I really don't even think it necessarily matters. I don't necessarily want them. And with Alec Pierce, another example, just the player that, yeah, you probably have him ranked higher than I do, but it's not about the individual rankings in this tier. It's about setting yourself up so you can just take someone at a discount that's going to give you a similar outlook and have a similar chance of hitting. But thank you, of course, for being a part of the Flock Supporting the channel. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Really hope you got something from it. Please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. You know what I always say. After this range, I think it's a complete crapshoot. I think you can almost make an argument for any order of players. You got guys like Brian Robinson, Damian Pierce, but Thank you again. Hope you have a great day. Go get our Dynasty rookie draft guide on flockfantasy.com. Use promo code NFL Draft to get an exclusive offer. And yeah, thank you again, and hope you have a great day.